The cameras were rolling at the Family Feud studio in Atlanta, and the energy was electric as always. Steve Harvey stood center stage, his signature smile warming up the crowd as two families prepared to face off. The Johnson family from Tennessee stood on one side, while the Martinez family from New Mexico took their position on the other. Among the Martinez family stood Isabella Martinez, 23 years old, fidgeting with her wedding ring as she tried to focus on the game. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore the purple team shirt that matched her mother Rosa, her father Miguel, her brother Carlos, and her cousin Sophia. But anyone watching closely could see that Isabella's mind was somewhere else entirely. "All right, Martinez family," Steve called out with his trademark enthusiasm. "Y'all ready to play?" The family cheered in response, but Isabella's cheer was just a beat behind the others. Her mother Rosa, standing next to her, gently squeezed her daughter's hand. "Let's meet the Martinez family," Steve continued, moving down the line. "Tell me your name and what you do." He started with Miguel, who proudly stated he was a high school math teacher. Rosa introduced herself as a nurse at the local children's hospital. Carlos, 19 and full of energy, announced he was a college student studying engineering. Sophia, 28, worked as a social media manager for a nonprofit. When Steve reached Isabella, he noticed the wedding ring she was unconsciously spinning on her finger. "And you are?" Steve asked warmly. "Isabella Martinez," she replied, her voice soft but clear. "I work at an elementary school as a teacher's aide." "Isabella Martinez," Steve repeated, then noticed her fidgeting. "That's a beautiful ring you got there. You married?" Isabella's face simultaneously lit up and crumbled. "Yes, sir. Almost 11 months. "Almost 11 months? So you're coming up on that first anniversary. That's beautiful. Where's your husband at? He couldn't make it today?" The studio fell into a hushed silence as Isabella's eyes immediately welled with tears. She took a shaky breath before answering. He's deployed. Air Force. He's been gone for 9 months." Steve's expression softened immediately. He'd seen this before. The pain of military families separated by service. 9 months? So he left just 2 months after you got married? Isabella nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Her mother rubbed her back gently. "That's tough, baby girl," Steve said quietly. "That's real tough. What's his name?" "Alejandro," Isabella managed, smiling through her tears. "Staff Sergeant Alejandro Martinez. We actually knew each other in high school, but we didn't start dating until after he enlisted. Got married right before his first deployment." "So you spent 2 months as newlyweds? And then?" "Then he had to leave," Isabella finished. "He's stationed at a base overseas. We video chat when we can, but with the time difference and his schedule." She trailed off, wiping her eyes carefully. The Johnson family watched with sympathy from their side. Even the audience had gone quiet, feeling the weight of Isabella's emotion. "When's he coming home?" Steve asked gently. Isabella shrugged helplessly. "They keep saying soon, but soon keeps changing. Maybe another month, maybe 2. They don't really tell us much. Our anniversary is in 6 days, and I was really hoping." She couldn't finish the sentence. "You were hoping he'd be here." Steve completed for her. "I know it's silly," Isabella said, trying to compose herself. "I knew what I was signing up for when I married a military man. I'm proud of him. So proud. He's doing important work. It's just, we didn't even get a honeymoon. We had this whole plan, you know? We were going to take a road trip to the Grand Canyon because neither of us had ever been. Now I just have this box of postcards I've been collecting from places I wanted us to visit together." Rosa spoke up then, her voice full of motherly pride. "She writes him a letter every single day. Even when she can't mail them, she writes them." "Every day?" Steve asked, impressed. Isabella blushed. "It helps me feel connected to him. I tell him about my day, about the kids at school, about how his mother is doing. She lives with us now. Just everything he's missing." "That's beautiful," Steve said. That's love right there. And listen, I want you to know, your husband's a hero. And you're a hero too, holding it down while he's gone. I don't feel like a hero, Isabella admitted. I feel like I'm just trying to make it to tomorrow, and then the tomorrow after that. Carlos, trying to lighten the mood slightly, added, she's doing more than just making it. She organized a support group for other military spouses in our area. Meets every Thursday at the community center. Isabella shrugged modestly. We help each other. It's easier when you're not alone. Steve nodded appreciatively. That's what it's about. Community. Supporting each other. He paused, then tried to shift the energy. Well, Isabella, I know your husband would be proud of you being here today with your family. So let's play Family Feud and try to win you some money for that honeymoon you're gonna take when he gets home. Isabella smiled genuinely for the first time, wiping the last of her tears. He actually made me promise to try out for the show. He loves watching it. Said if we got on, I had to play extra hard for both of us. Then that's what we're gonna do, Steve declared. Let's play. The game began, and the Martinez family started strong. Isabella seemed to find her focus, channeling her emotions into determination. They won the first round easily, with Isabella scoring the #1 answer for Name something people do when they can't sleep. Her answer? Write letters. The audience applauded extra loud for that one, understanding the personal significance. As the game progressed, Steve found himself drawn back to Isabella's story during the brief moments between questions. During one commercial break, he walked over to her. You doing okay, sweetheart? He asked quietly, away from the microphones. Isabella nodded. I'm sorry I got so emotional earlier. I didn't mean to bring everyone down. Don't you ever apologize for loving your husband? Steve said firmly. Don't you ever apologize for missing him. That's real love. That's the kind of love people search their whole lives for. Sometimes I wonder if it would be easier if I loved him less, Isabella admitted quietly. If it didn't hurt so much when he's gone. No, baby, Steve said, shaking his head. The hurt is just love, with nowhere to go. When he comes home, all that hurt turns back into joy. You'll see. The stage manager called for places, and they returned to the game. The Martinez family continued to do well, their teamwork evident in every round. Isabella grew more confident with each answer, her family rallying around her with encouragement and support. They made it through to the fast money round, winning decisively against the Johnson family, who congratulated them warmly. Now came the decision of who would play fast money. I think Isabella should go first, Rosa said immediately. She's been our strongest player. The rest of the family agreed enthusiastically. Isabella looked nervous but determined. All right, Isabella, Steve said as she took her position at the fast money podium. Now, you know how this works. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You've got 20 seconds to give me the first answer that comes to your mind. If you and Carlos together get 200 points, you win $20,000. $20,000, Isabella repeated, thinking. That would be enough for a really nice honeymoon, maybe even Hawaii. Alejandro always wanted to see Pearl Harbor. Then let's get it, Steve encouraged. 20 seconds on the clock. The time will start after I read the first question. Here we go. Isabella gripped the podium, taking a deep breath. The audience fell silent, everyone rooting for this young military wife. Name something you wish for every day, Steve read. Isabella's answer came without hesitation, straight from her heart. My husband to come home. The emotion in her voice was so raw that Steve had to pause for a fraction of a second. But before he could read the next question, something unprecedented happened. From the side of the stage, a figure emerged. Tall, dressed in Air Force dress blues, his uniform immaculate, his boots shining under the studio lights. Staff Sergeant Alejandro Martinez stepped onto the Family Feud stage. Isabella hadn't seen him yet, her eyes closed as she tried to focus on the game. But the audience gasped collectively, and Steve's eyes went wide. Name a place you've never been but want to visit, Steve continued, his voice slightly shaky as he watched Alejandro approach. The Grand Canyon, Isabella answered. Still unaware, Alejandro was now standing just a few feet behind his wife, his own eyes filled with tears. He looked at Steve, who nodded encouragingly. "Isabella," Alejandro said softly. Isabella's entire body froze. Her eyes snapped open, and she spun around so fast, she nearly fell. When she saw her husband standing there, in his dress blues, real and solid and home, she let out a sound that was part sob, part scream, part joy. "Alejandro?" she whispered, like she couldn't believe it. Are you really?" "I'm really here, mi amor," he said, opening his arms. Isabella flew into his embrace, jumping up to wrap her arms around his neck as he caught her easily, spinning her around as they both cried. The studio erupted in applause and cheers. But for Isabella and Alejandro, the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "How are you here?" Isabella asked between sobs, pulling back to touch his face, as if to confirm he was real. "They said another month at least." Alejandro smiled through his own tears. "I've been back for 2 days. I wanted to surprise you. When they found out you were going to be on the show, my commanding officer helped me arrange it. Steve's producers have been incredible, keeping it secret." Steve stood nearby, visibly moved, letting them have their moment. The entire studio was emotional, audience members wiping tears, cameras still rolling to capture this incredible reunion. 2 days? Isabella said, hitting his chest lightly. "You've been home for 2 days? And didn't tell me?" "I wanted this moment," Alejandro said, cupping her face gently. "I wanted to see your face when you realized I made it home for our anniversary. I wasn't going to miss it, baby. Not for anything." Rosa, Miguel, Carlos, and Sophia had rushed over from their side, surrounding the couple in a group hug. Rosa was crying openly, blessing them both in Spanish. Miguel shook his son-in-law's hand firmly before pulling him into an embrace. "Mijo, it's so good to see you," Miguel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Wait," Isabella said suddenly, a thought occurring to her. "If you're here, does that mean?" "My deployment's over," Alejandro confirmed. "I'm home for good. Well, I still have to report to base, but I'll be stationed stateside. No more overseas assignments for at least the next 3 years." Isabella broke down completely at this news, burying her face in his chest. The audience was on their feet now, applauding continuously. Even the Johnson family had come over to congratulate them. Steve finally approached, wiping his own eyes. "Staff Sergeant Martinez, welcome home, soldier." Alejandro straightened, saluting sharply. "Thank you, Mr. Harvey. And thank you for letting me surprise my wife like this. I've been planning this for weeks." "How did you keep it secret?" Steve asked, genuinely curious. Alejandro grinned. "It wasn't easy. I had to have my mom go stay with her sister so Isabella wouldn't get suspicious when she wasn't worried about me. Had to pre-record some video messages to send at the right times. My whole unit was in on it, helping me coordinate." "Your whole unit?" Isabella asked, amazed. "Oh yeah," Alejandro laughed. "They were so invested, kept asking for updates. My commanding officer personally made sure I could be here today. Said anybody who writes letters every single day to her deployed husband deserves to have him home for their anniversary." "You know about the letters?" Isabella asked, blushing. "Every single one," Alejandro confirmed. "They're the only things that kept me sane over there. 9 months of daily letters, 273 letters to be exact. I have them all." Steve turned to the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing something special here. This is what love looks like. This is what sacrifice looks like. And this is what homecoming looks like." "But wait," Isabella said suddenly, remembering where they were. "The game, fast money. We were in the middle of—" Steve waved his hand dismissively. "Forget the game for a minute. You just got your husband back." "No," Isabella said firmly, surprising everyone. "No, we're finishing this. Alejandro made me promise to play hard if we got on the show. We're winning this money for our honeymoon. Our real honeymoon. Alejandro beamed with pride. That's my wife. Always finishing what she starts. Can he stay? Isabella asked Steve. Can he stand here with me while I finish? Steve looked at his producers, who were nodding enthusiastically. This was television gold. But more importantly, it was a moment of pure human connection. Not only can he stay, Steve said, but I think we need to start over. That emotional state you were in, that's not fair for fast money. So we're going to reset the clock, and you're going to play with your husband right here beside you. How's that sound? The audience cheered their approval. Isabella took her position again, this time with Alejandro standing right beside her, his hand on her back. All right, Steve said. Let's do this right. 20 seconds on the clock. Here we go. Name something you wish for every day. Isabella looked at Alejandro and smiled. A kiss from my husband. Name a place you've never been but want to visit. Hawaii, Isabella answered, squeezing Alejandro's hand. Name something that makes a house a home. Having everyone you love under one roof. Name a month that feels special. Isabella glanced at Alejandro again. Whatever month he comes home. Name something worth waiting for. True love. Isabella finished without hesitation. The buzzer sounded, and Steve walked them through her answers. The points added up quickly. Her first answer got 32 points. Hawaii got 28. The house answer got 39. The month answer got 25. All right, Steve said, building suspense. You've got 124. You need 76 points to win $20,000. Something worth waiting for. You said true love. How many people said true love? The board revealed the answer. 41 points. Not enough. But wait, Steve said, a mischievous glint in his eye. Let's see what the number one answer was. The board flipped. Your order at a restaurant, 45 points. Isabella and Alejandro laughed along with everyone else. That's all right, Isabella said. I got something worth more than money today. Hold up, Steve said. We're not done yet. Carlos still gets to play. Carlos took his turn, managing to score 92 points, bringing their total to 257, well over the 200 needed. The Martinez family had won $20,000, but the celebration was bittersweet compared to the real prize of the day, Alejandro's homecoming. As the family celebrated, Steve pulled the couple aside. This is one of those moments that makes this job worth it, he told them. But I gotta know, how are you both really doing? 9 months is a long time. Alejandro's expression grew serious. It's been the hardest 9 months of my life, and I'm not talking about the deployment itself. Being away from Isabella, missing our first Christmas as a married couple, our first New Year's, her birthday. There were nights I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if it was fair to ask her to live this life. But then I'd get another letter. He continued, looking at his wife with such love that Steve had to glance away for a moment. And she'd tell me about her day, about the support group she started, about how she was teaching the other spouses to be strong. And I realized I didn't marry just a wife. I married a warrior. Isabella was crying again, but these were different tears. You know what the hardest part was? She asked. It wasn't the lonely nights or the empty bed or cooking dinner for one. It was the good moments. When something wonderful would happen at school, or I'd see a beautiful sunset, or hear our song on the radio, and I'd turn to share it with you, and you weren't there. Those were the moments that broke me. But you didn't break, Alejandro said firmly. You bent, but you didn't break. And now we have the rest of our lives to share every sunset, every song, every moment. Steve was visibly moved. You know what? I've been doing this show for years, and I've seen a lot of surprises. But this one's special. And I think we need to do something special for it. He turned to his producers, who were already nodding, apparently reading his mind. That $20,000 you won? That's yours, of course. But the show wants to do something more. We want to send you on that honeymoon you never got. All expenses paid, wherever you want to go." Isabella gasped. "Mr. Harvey, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Steve interrupted. "Because you know what? Every day, we see families competing, trying to win money. But today, we saw what family really means. We saw what love really means. And that deserves to be celebrated. Can we still go to the Grand Canyon?" Isabella asked Alejandro, who laughed. "Baby, we can go wherever you want. But maybe somewhere with a beach, too? Hawaii and the Grand Canyon?" Isabella suggested hopefully. Steve laughed. "Do both. Take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Make up for lost time." The show's producer approached with some additional news. "We've been getting calls already," she said. "The airline wants to upgrade your flights to first class. A hotel chain wants to provide presidential suites. A rental car company wants to give you a convertible for the road trip portion. Everyone wants to be part of this love story." Isabella was overwhelmed. "Why? Why would strangers do this for us?" Steve put his hand on her shoulder. "Because, baby girl, you reminded us all what's important. In a world full of bad news and division, you showed us pure love. You showed us sacrifice. You showed us that some things are worth waiting for. People want to be part of that. They want to believe in love again." As they prepared to wrap up the taping, Rosa approached with a special request.
"Steve, would it be okay if we did something? It's a tradition in our family."
Steve nodded. "Of course." Rosa pulled out a small cloth from her purse. "This is Isabella's wedding veil. In our family, when a couple reunites after a long separation, we wrap their hands together with the veil and say a blessing. It symbolizes that their bond remained unbroken, despite the distance." Isabella's eyes widened. "Mama, you brought my veil?" "I've carried it with me every day since Alejandro left," Rosa admitted. "Call it mother's intuition, but something told me today was special." Steve stepped back respectfully as Rosa wrapped the delicate veil around Isabella and Alejandro's joined hands. Miguel, Carlos, and Sofia gathered around as Rosa spoke in Spanish, blessing their reunion and their marriage. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Even the camera operators were wiping their eyes. "You know," Steve said as the blessing concluded, "we air a lot of episodes of Family Feud. They're fun, they're entertaining, people win money, but every once in a while, we get to be part of something bigger. Today was one of those days." Alejandro stepped forward. "Mr. Harvey, before we go, can I say something?" Steve nodded. "Of course." Alejandro turned to face the audience, still holding Isabella's hand. "I know there are other military families out there watching, or who will watch this. Maybe you're the one deployed, missing your family. Maybe you're the one at home, counting days until your loved one returns. I want you to know it's worth it. The sacrifice, the loneliness, the fear, it's all worth it when you finally hold them again." He looked at Isabella. "My wife taught me something in those 273 letters. Love isn't just about being together. Love is about staying connected even when you're apart. It's about writing letters, even when you're too tired. It's about keeping faith even when the deployment gets extended. It's about building a community of support so nobody faces the separation alone." Isabella added, "And for those of you at home, holding it down while your spouse serves, you're not just military spouses. You're the backbone that keeps everything together. Don't let anyone tell you that waiting is passive. Waiting with love, with purpose, with strength. Dollar. That's the hardest active duty there is." The audience erupted in applause one final time. As the cameras stopped rolling and the studio lights dimmed slightly, the Martinez family stood together, complete once again. Steve made his way over for one final word. "You know what struck me most about today?" he said to Isabella and Alejandro. "It wasn't just the surprise or the reunion. It was the love that survived 9 months of separation. A lot of couples struggle when they're in the same house. You two grew stronger from opposite sides of the world. That's special. We had help, Isabella said, looking at her family. I couldn't have made it without them, or without the other military spouses in my support group. Nobody should have to do this alone. What's next for you two? Steve asked. Alejandro and Isabella looked at each other and smiled. First, we're going to have the anniversary celebration we missed. Then the honeymoon we never got. And then, Alejandro said, his voice full of quiet determination, we're going to build the life we dreamed about. Buy a little house. Maybe start a family. Normal, beautiful, everyday life. With him here, every day will be special, Isabella added. As the Martinez family prepared to leave the studio, various crew members approached to shake Alejandro's hand and thank him for his service. Isabella watched with pride, still not quite believing he was really there. The families exchanged contact information, with the Johnsons insisting they wanted to be invited to the anniversary party. What had started as a game show had turned into an extended family of sorts, bonded by witnessing something extraordinary. 3 weeks later, Steve received a package at the studio. Inside was a photo album filled with pictures from Isabella and Alejandro's honeymoon, the Grand Canyon at sunset, beaches in Hawaii, and countless selfies of the couple simply reveling in being together. The note attached read, Dear Steve, we wanted you to see what your kindness made possible. Every photo in this album exists because you gave us the space to reunite, the platform to share our story, and the means to finally take our honeymoon. But more than that, you reminded us that love stories like ours matter. We've received hundreds of messages from other military families since the show aired. Some are deployed service members who found hope in our reunion. Others are spouses who felt less alone knowing others understand the weight. We're expanding our support group to 3 more cities now, because nobody should wait alone. Thank you for stopping the game to celebrate our love. Thank you for showing America that behind every uniform is a family waiting to be whole again. And thank you for turning our anniversary surprise into a movement of support for military families. With all our love and gratitude, Isabella and Alejandro Martinez. P.S. We're expecting our first baby in 6 months. If it's a boy, his middle name will be Stephen. If it's a girl, her middle name will be Faith, 2PI, because that's what got us through. Steve kept that letter in his dressing room, next to other precious memories from his years hosting the show. But he often said that of all the episodes, all the surprises, all the moments of joy and laughter, few compared to the day a young wife wished for her husband to come home. And that wish came true right before everyone's eyes. The episode became more than just a viral moment. It sparked a national conversation about military families and the challenges they face. The Martinez Support Group, as it came to be known, grew into a nationwide network. Isabella became a spokesperson for military spouse support, while Alejandro worked with returning service members on reintegration. But at their core, they remained what they had always been, 2 people in love who proved that distance is just a test of how far love can travel. And every year on their anniversary, they watched that Family Feud episode together, remembering the day their love story became America's love story and the game show that stopped for a soldier's homecoming.